What's up, everybody? Welcome to our very first episode of the Authentic Podcast. It's been a long time coming. It's something that we've been excited for and something that we've been talking about for a long time. As we're saying, this is our very first episode. And so it's something that just deal with it with a little bit of, take a little bit of salt with it. Because we're going to be learning as we go, but it's a need that we felt was necessary in the Kansas City and the whole United States real estate market.
You know, they say, I read a quote the other day that perfect is the enemy of good, or good enough. So we're not trying to make this perfect.
But
we're trying to make it good. So it won't be perfect yet.
Oh, we're perfect.
But we'll get there.
We're there, guys. Everybody, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us here. It's our very first episode. And what is our goals, Jared, with this podcast? What's your goal with this?
Well, I think you said it. Like, I think there's a big need for this.
Yep.
And for me specifically, I long to get information to people. And the hard part is I think the Instagrams and TikToks are so saturated with the same message over and over again. I don't think there's really anybody out there that's doing this in a way that's honest and candid. And I think that's how people need to get this information.
Yep.
And so much longer, I know we said it in our introduction, but longer than just the little clips of Instagram.
Right. Yeah, there's a deep dive and a need, especially for those first-time home buyers, people that don't know what they're doing or they think they know what they're doing based off they see a 30-second clip, and there's so much more to it, especially in this market when all you turn on the news and all you hear is about interest rates doing this, the housing market's crashing, inflation's nuts. There's so much that's going on that there's a need for a real authentic conversation about real estate.
Totally.
And so we're bringing that to you.
Yeah. I think you were an obvious choice, too, for us to do this in partnership. I think anytime I've had clients work with you, and I'm not just saying this, but man, they're like, Tanner was so authentic. He was such a good person. He just seems really real. And I get that feedback a lot too in my business.
Yeah.
And so I think we're not trying to blow smoke or anything. I think it's just absolutely trying to fill the need for people and get them the right information, especially because the national information is so different than what we're seeing here in our area. So
it's so true. Well, thank you for that. And I would say the exact same about you. Of the honesty factor is probably number one thing that we hear when we refer people your way.
Yeah.
Is you're honest, you're going to tell exactly how it is, and you're going to get people houses if they like it or not. And so it's totally the number one reason why this is going to be a good thing.
Yeah.
So we're excited. Jared, how long have you been in business?
So I started real estate in 2015.
Okay.
So this will be my 8th full year. I did it part-time for the first year, I think, like a lot of people do,
right?
Which obviously is a mistake, always a mistake. But here we are 8 years later and working for a wonderful team, the Andy Blake Group. We're with Realty Execs, and yeah, it's been a
How many people have been on your team?
Oh gosh, when I joined the team, we had 5, and now we're up to 9.
9,
yeah.
And it's consistently a top 50 team in Kansas City.
We're typically in the top 10. I think this last year we were 12.
Better than I even thought.
But typically we're up there, which is great. I mean, it's a huge honor. There's a lot of good people,
right,
and good brokerages here in town. So
right, and you're pretty humble with your numbers, but you're up there. How many years in a row now have you done over 10 million?
Oh gosh, probably 6 of those years.
6 in a row, exactly.
Yeah.
Guys, you're talking to a very, very great real estate agent, someone that knows the market, knows the area, and is very, very good at his job. So buy into what he has to say.
So what about you? Why should people listen to you? What's your experience?
They shouldn't. No, I started in 2019. I'm with Fairway Mortgage. It's the largest company no one's ever heard of, is what we say. But we have the number 1 market share in the Kansas City region. We're one of the biggest here in Kansas City and the country. And, you know, I do take pride in, I was a first-time home buyer. I understand what it's like to not know and understand where your money's going. And so I try to make a very valiant point on making it easy to understand and making it know that mortgages aren't tough and the numbers don't lie, that real estate is a very easy / complicated, if you make it, conversation to have, you know, and that we can help guide that to make it where it's not stressful and that it actually is a fun and engaging conversation. And so we take pride in that. I started mortgages in 2019, have grown to a team of 5 of us now, and we've been a top 1% mortgage originating team for 3 straight years now.
That's great, yeah.
And so it's been a blessing. It's been an absolute blessing and something that our team's just grateful and love to do. So it's been good.
Good.
Yeah, well, let's dive in.
Let's dive in.
Before we do, We're sipping on something. What are you sipping on?
Yeah, so I've picked. We're gonna try a bunch of different things when we do our episodes here. Get a little bit of liquid courage as well as just try some new things.
All right.
Today I picked a very controversial whiskey. People either love it or hate it, and it's Whistle Pig, and it's their smoke stock whiskey, which is partnered with Traeger. So it tastes like you're licking the inside of a Traeger. Huh? A lot of smoke. But some people either love it or they hate it. So I think this is a good one to get off on the right foot. And at the very end, if you stick around, we'll talk about what we think of it.
Everyone knows the rules. One sip.
Well, I think it's important too to make a little disclaimer. The information that we have here, while it is researched, I think this is largely based on our experience and opinions. And everybody has a different situation. So definitely a disclaimer to everybody listening that these are our opinions and obviously our interpretation of the facts and what we're seeing.
Yeah, Jerry, that's a very good point. And it is a very macro scale. You know, we're based in Kansas City. We have a smaller margin and region than a lot of people, but yeah, it's growing. And so we see things before it gets reported to the news outlets. We see it real life, and it's usually 1 or 2 months lagging behind. So when you hear things on the news, we've seen that months before.
Sure.
And so, yep, it is our opinions, solely our opinions, but it's based off facts that we will share with y'all. So Jared, give us an update. What are you seeing in this market?
Well, it's crazy. I mean, I don't
Put
think
it
anybody's surprised by that. I mean, it's very difficult for people to buy homes right now, and the people that are buying homes are getting stretched very thin. And for the first time in a long time, because of interest rates, renting is actually cheaper than owning in a lot of instances, which is kind of wild to think about because I don't think it's ever been that way. I mean, we've always said like buy a house because it's cheaper than mortgage,
right?
Or cheaper than rent, I should say, not mortgage. But now that's kind of flip flopped, which I think the sentiment honestly is still to buy a house to get acquisitions, right? To help build wealth because you never will renting. But I mean, we've beaten that into the ground so much that while I do believe it, I don't think that's the narrative that we really want to start. I mean, that's for the TikToks, right? Like, hey, it's a great time to buy and sell, and here's why. And I think we can certainly make a justification for just about a lot of things. But I truly still believe that if you're a first-time home buyer, the goal is acquisition, and not necessarily worrying about getting the best deal or whatever that may be, because the appreciation going on here is insane, and it continues to be insane. I think just from this time last year, I believe I looked at it this morning, and it was, I think we're up about 10% than where we were last year.
Year over year?
Yeah.
Wow.
Which is crazy.
Right. And even if it does, let's say it goes back, splits in half and goes to normal, that's still 5% appreciation.
Right.
Which is fantastic.
Yeah.
If you invest in the stock market, 5% return is pretty dang good.
Right.
So that you're 100% correct there, and I like what you said about renting versus mortgages because you are right. One thing that we always talk about with our first-time home buyers, and not just first-time home buyers, but all buyers, is can you afford this monthly payment?
Right.
Because that's what you gauge renting off of, and it's how you should gauge all your home is how you can affordability.
Right.
Right. Not what you qualify for, but affordability.
Yep.
And we don't want to get you in a house and be house rich, house poor, where you're stuck in a house and can't go anywhere. So you're exactly right on that. But to your point, owning real estate is still the number one wealth builder in all of wealth building. Right. So it still is a great tool to build success.
Yeah. And I think a question on everybody's mind really is, in the mortgage world, like, are rates going to come down? I know there's speculation that they are, but I think we also had fallen into that trap before. Right. So do we have any indication of where we're going? Do we have any points of interest that we can talk about that might be of interest to people?
Absolutely. So short answer, yes. Rates have to come down. There's so many indicators why, but the number one reason is if you follow anything, our inflation is the highest it's been in a long, long time, right? We're at peak inflation levels. The 10-year and 2-year treasuries have been, the curves, sorry, let's refix that. The 10-year, cut that, Kimmy. The
Chief.
Now it's you, Chief. The 10-year and 2-year treasury yields have been inversely correlated for a long time, meaning that the shorter that you invest your money, if you put your golly.
Speak.
Put that in there.
Can you say that in English, please?
Yeah, I got it.
I don't know what you're saying.
So there's lots of reasons why. Number one, the 10-year and the 2-year treasury curves yields have been curved. What am I saying? I'm done.
What are you saying?
I don't even know.
Rephrase it.
Yeah, let's just talk. I need a drink. Where's my whistle, pig? All right, so mortgage rates are coming down. You're exactly right. The short answer is yes, they are going to come down, and then short term and long term, they have to. And the reason being is there's so many statistics that show it. But the number one is, anytime inflation gets this high, the goal of getting out of inflation and bringing it down is what? Getting out of inflation is putting us into a recession, into a point where they feel comfortable with lowering interest rates.
Right.
And when they lower interest rates, the inflation numbers will start getting better, and that will help us to get back to a normal playing field. And when we hear that we're going into a recession, inflation numbers start coming down, mortgage rates will follow.
Yeah.
And so every single sign, if you look at Freddie Mac, Fannie Mae, the Mortgage Bankers Association of America, Realtors, every single platform is predicting rates to come down going into Q4 this year. Every single one. We have indicators showing us that anytime the Fed speak, rates are they're so volatile right now, they're rather going way up or way down. Number one reason is we don't know what they're going to say, right? But anytime that they talk and if things just stay steady, or you hear that rates are starting to slow down or they're going to stop, just know mortgage rates are about to go down.
Right.
And it's going to happen a lot sooner than later.
Yeah.
So, yes, every indication is showing mortgage rates are on their way down. When? It's hard to tell. However, you're at the peak. We're at the peak right now. They've already come down they hit 7% earlier this year. They've already come down from that. Right? And every single indication is showing they'll be in the 5s by the end of the year. Obviously, anything can happen. But if every single economist is predicting rates to be in the 5s by the end of the year, there's pretty good odds that they'll be in the 5s by the end of the year.
Sure. Which
will be huge, not only for buyers and that monthly payment, but for sellers too, because it's a lot easier to stomach going from a 3% interest rate to a 5% interest rate, right? Compared from a 3% to a 7% interest rate.
For sure, yeah.
Huge difference.
Right.
And so hopefully that can bring not only demand into the market, but also some listings and some sellers.
Right.
So
I think it'll be interesting too with the election year next year. Things, obviously just speculation, but typically, historically, we'll see some things change right before an election, so that people have a little bit more of a exciting demeanor.
Every single election year, rates usually get better.
Yeah.
Every single one historically, and the reason being is just like you said, they want to look good going into those elections.
Right.
So they pump the brakes, throw money into the economy, and try to make everything look better by the time it's time to get elected.
Right.
And so that's in 2024.
Yeah.
Started this year going into 2024, rates should be coming down right into that hay market of the election.
Right.
So, yes, all indications are pointing for rates to come down.
Yeah.
And even if they don't, let's say they stay kind of close to where they are, or they go up, it makes sense still to buy in case rates go up and refinance later if they go down, compared to wait for rates to come down, because you will never time the market.
Right.
So
I think that's an important conversation too, and I have a lot of people that are waiting. They're trying to time the market, or I've even heard we're going to wait for the market to crash, which, people can believe what they want to believe. Nobody knows what's going to happen. I mean, we see the indicators that's not going to happen, which I have some stats I'm going to run through here before long. However, my conversation with people now is you still don't wait. And I'd steal a line from Andy Blake. He always says you're risking a lot to gain a little. So you're risking a ton of equity if you were to say, okay, I'm going to wait until mortgage rates goes down to the 5. If you're in a position financially where you can't do it, absolutely wait. But if you're trying to time it well at the lower interest rate, I think you're giving up a ton of equity in order to save a little bit on a monthly payment. And the fact of the matter is, too, people aren't staying in their houses more than 6 years, 4, 5, 6 years.
Yep.
So, you think about a 1% interest rate over that much time is really not that big of a deal.
Right.
But
especially if you're appreciating.
Right. But as we've seen, the appreciation will outweigh any of that extra payment you might have.
Yep.
That's my opinion, but.
No, you're exactly right. And like I said, if rates do come down 1 or 2%, you can always refinance.
Right.
So, no, you're exactly right on that. It's always one of the best conversations ever is the housing market going to crash?
Right.
Right? Everyone believes it's crashing.
Right.
People believed in 2018, 2019 that the market was crashing because houses were overbid.
Yeah.
I bet they wish they had a house now.
Right. Yeah.
It looks so much better. So what are some statistics that I can't say that word, statistics.
You got it.
Thank you. That are helping that or backing that you're seeing.
Yeah, so I think when we have that conversation with people about the housing market and what it's going to do, one of my favorite lines is, "I don't have a crystal ball." Mm-hmm. We don't know. I mean, again, we're looking at stats in real estate. They lag in their stats, so we don't always get information of the month until the current month until the next month. So we're a little bit limited. What we can do is look at stuff historically, but people always want to talk about 2008 and what happened in 2008, and this is going to happen again. Now, the easy part to say is it's not because of lending requirements, right?
Right.
These the subprime loans, and that's kind of like the buzzword from 2008,
right.
where they were in that time they were prevalent, and now they're almost non-existent.
Right.
So I think that's the biggest indicator that we're not going to be back into what 2008 was. And honestly, when you look at all the key variables from the 2008 to now, the last housing cycle or crash, whatever you want to call it, jobs, payroll, all that stuff is up, right? No more subprime loans. The inventory, and I think this is the biggest deal, the inventory then was around 4 million, which is a lot.
Yeah.
And because the demand now, we're really at like 1.2 million today.
So only 25%.
Correct, of inventory. So when inventory is that low,
jeez,
it's not. I don't think it's a foregone conclusion that anything's going to crash, because all of the indicators are in a positive way. I mean, you look at delinquencies and foreclosures. The mortgage delinquency was 10% at the last housing cycle, and right now we're at 3.5%, 3.6%, which is a big deal. And homes in foreclosure at the last crash was 4.6, and we're currently at 0.6.
Wow. So
when you look at those stats, I mean, it's hard to think that that's going to happen, especially in our area, which feels like a bubble compared to the rest of the country. I mean, those are pretty significant stats, and that's from the National Association of Realtors. I'm not making this up. This is stuff that's at everybody's fingertips.
Right.
So
yeah, I'll hit on that a little bit too. It's simple economics, and we're feeling it here. The lack of inventory, right? Supply and demand. And if your supply is 25% of what it was when there was a crash, there's no chance a crash is coming.
Right.
With that. Now, could appreciation slow? Sure.
Sure. Yeah.
It should.
Should, yeah.
You should never increase anything 20% year over year.
Right.
Insane. But does that mean there's a crash? Absolutely not. That just means even all the predictions that we're seeing are saying that, let's say, appreciation's going down, right? Which it is. Let's say it goes from 10% to 4%. That still means your house is going up in value.
Right.
You're not losing value.
Right.
Right? So they'll show that, -6 appreciation. You're still appreciating 4%, which means you're still gaining value by buying that home.
Yeah.
And so when you see that, it makes so much sense that there's no crash coming.
Right.
So that's a great point. What are some more indicators or anything else that you're seeing here locally that kind of support that? I know we talked about the lack of inventory.
Right.
What is there anything else that you're seeing here macroly?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing is to talk about investors and these big financial institution investors.
Follow the money.
Yeah, I mean, it's some of the stuff that we're seeing from that regard is a little bit frightening to me. Just these banks crash and then a big bank buys them out.
Right.
There seems to be a lot going on behind the scenes that we're not seeing. But I saw a stat that we always hear about, like BlackRock and these big, huge institutions with all these funds that can go up and buy property. There was, I think it said by 2030 or 2040. I'll have to go back and put it in the notes. But they expect for all of housing to be owned, 40% of all housing to be owned by these institutional landlords.
Jeez.
Which is crazy.
It's not good.
Right. And again, let's just say you do get into this big percentage of foreclosures. This market's crazy now. I get emails and calls from investors every couple days asking for inventory. So even if you do have a chance at a foreclosure, you're going to be up against a ton of investors who are still trying to get into the game and boost their portfolio, which is also why everything's become very hard for any new home buyer.
Right.
Because when I bought my first house in 2014, I bought a 3-bedroom for $180,000.
Right.
Now, that same house is worth $350,000,
right,
$400,000, a 3-bedroom. I mean that's the entry to get into housing is so difficult right now.
Right. You can hardly find a home under 250 to 300,000.
Yeah.
As a first-time home buyer.
Yeah.
And that, especially in the Johnson County area where we are, or even anywhere on the suburbs of cities, you're at least 250 to 300
right.
to get into a starter home.
Right.
Which is nuts, but it is where we are.
Right.
You know, and that's not changing.
Yeah, I totally agree. So as far as the mortgage goes, like what is, obviously we want to have this platform to be able to say the things that we really can't say online. Right, or on Instagram or in short version. So like the one thing, if even one person is still listening to this right now, like what do you want them to know about the mortgage world?
Rates are short term. They are going to come down.
Right.
We already talked about that. We hear so much in the news right now that I've never had so many people since I started asking about mortgage rates. Even when rates were low, nobody cared. Now, people are pins and needles on rates, right? If you can afford a house at the monthly payment, get in it. The appreciation is going to outweigh the mortgage rate. There's so much going on. There's going to be some opportunity of people that are getting out of it that people can get in. And so don't let a mortgage rate stop you from buying a home if you can afford the monthly payment.
Yeah.
I don't want to be one of those guys that are like, always buy, always buy, always buy. But if it's there, take advantage of it.
Sure.
We've seen a lot in the news lately. I do have to hit this real quick on an Instagram worthy, right? Of all Fox News put a post out about how high credit score borrowers are getting hit with a fee compared to low credit score borrowers.
Yeah, so we saw a lot of that. People,
it's insane.
People making a lot of assumptions and
so many assumptions.
Wrong
I got
information.
At least 20 texts and phone calls from people asking about what the heck, why am I getting hit hard with this credit program for people that are low qualified borrowers?
Right.
And the simple answer to your question is you're not. Like, are you being hit? Yes. What is happening is what's called loan level price adjustments. And what that is are Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae, which are subsidiaries of the United States government that buy mortgage loans, are putting on what are called loan level price adjustments for every single mortgage. So when they buy a house, depending on what your credit score is, your down payment, anything, you get put into this ball that gets sent to Freddie Mac or Fannie Mae, and they say, okay, if you want to give us this loan, then we are going to charge you this amount per loan in order to get it done. And what I mean by that is, let's say you have a 720 credit score putting 5% down. You're going to be put in a category where you're charged a 1% fee just to do that loan, where if you are a perfect credit score 780 with 5% down, you may only get charged 0.25% of your loan amount in order to do the loan. So there's a lot of numbers being thrown at. All you need to know is this, simply. There is a fee that is charged. It's put into your interest rate. It's been in with lenders for 2 or 3 months now. It's been happening forever. Loan level pricing has been happening for 20 years. There's a small fee that's putting into your interest rate that is being hit that started May 1st by the Biden administration. Do I agree with it? No, I do not agree with it. But it's been into your pricing forever. It's not saying that if you have a 640 credit score, you're going to have a better interest rate than someone with a 780 credit score. It's not saying that at all. It narrowed the margin between someone with a lower credit score and a higher credit score. That's all it did. If you still have above a 780 credit score, nothing changed for you.
Right.
You're still perfect. The people that got hit hard were those people between 700 and 740 with 5 to 20% down, but you're still getting a better interest rate than someone that has a lower credit score.
Right, yeah.
It's just a nuance that's happening and something that's new that's happening with the mortgage industry. People are fighting for it. Like I said, do I personally agree with it? No, I do not. However, you're not going to notice its effect, especially with what Jared said. If you're going to have 5, 6, 7 years of being in this house, very, very marginal differences, and it's every single lender nationwide that's being hit with these. And so it's just something that's now the new norm of the mortgage industry.
Right.
But since Fox News said good credit borrowers are being hit with a big fee compared to low score credit borrowers, then it blew up.
Right.
That's all it is. It's just Instagram worthy news.
Yeah.
Want the clicks.
The one headline. Don't read the story, just read the headline.
Yep, exactly.
I think that's a lot of good information too, and I always encourage people, if you're not ready to buy a house but you know it's coming, you really should talk to a lender. And I think all in all, when you do talk to a lender ahead of time, they don't have to pull your credit. They don't have to do that stuff that everybody's very scared of. Like, I don't want a hard credit pull. I don't want to do that. You don't have to. Call a lender.
Yep.
Call your lender. Call your agent's preferred lender. Call Tanner, and just walk through the steps.
Right.
Because then you can know, like, okay, if I reduce some of my debt for 6 months, I'll be in a better position to buy in 6 months. Or, I actually can afford what I didn't think I could. I think it's important at any stage to be able to talk to a lender and have that in your corner.
100%. And it's every single scenario, every single one is different, right? But unless you talk to a lender, you're not going to know what you're qualified for. You're not really going to know what your monthly payment is. You're not going to really know what your down payment or closing costs are. So you're just guessing in your head, and that's where stress comes from.
Sure.
But when you see your numbers and know what it is, it could make sense.
Right.
And if not, then guess what? You wait a year, and you do it then.
And it's no harm, no foul.
It's not. It's free.
Yeah. There's no credits. There's no
Nothing
obligations,
happens.
or no credit pulls, no obligations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yep. Any other statistics of what's going on in this month that you want to hit on?
I do. Yeah. So kind of my update, or like the one thing that I want people to know right now, and it does coincide with the stat that I want to talk about. We are down closed sales almost 18%.
Is that year over year?
Closed sales, correct. Yes.
Okay.
Now, here's why that's important. Like, everybody knows there's low inventory, but you kind of have to take it a little bit of a step further, in my opinion, because what we're seeing is that means there's less deals to go around for a lot of people that have real estate as their career.
Yep.
And I say it all the time about who you work with matters. And what we're seeing, my speculation based on when we do have listings and we're talking to different buyers agents, there's a lot of desperation, and to make a dollar. Yep. And I think sometimes hiring the wrong agent, they can pressure you into doing something because they need a paycheck. Now, because we're all 100% commission, we don't make salaries, so we don't sell, we don't get paid. Now, I'm not trying to blanket all realtors as bad salesmen. I'm just saying, like, it matters. It really matters, because you might have an agent that comes in to make an offer. We see this all the time. They don't make a phone call to the agent. They go in and they write this astronomical offer that they didn't even need to write.
Right.
They come in as the only offer. They're like, 20,000 over. We won't do inspections. We don't do appraisals. And we're just like, awesome. You're our only offer. You know what I mean? But a phone call, like, that agent could have saved their client some money,
right,
or some headaches. Now, that's not a blanket statement all the way around, but I do want to encourage people very desperately, like, who you work with matters. And
right.
I always say it. I'm going to keep saying it, because you don't want an agent to because of their desperation, start giving you bad advice. Now, we're not seeing realtor numbers go down yet, which I have to imagine they will.
Right, they will.
I mean, because when you're down that many deals, that's a lot to spread over the 15,000 agents here in Kansas City in our area.
Right.
So I would just tell people, like, be very diligent, go with your gut. We heard a story the other day of somebody that the buyer felt very pressured by their agent to buy a home, and they talked to the lender and was like, I don't even know if I want to do this. And that lender had the wherewithal to be like, then pump the brakes. Don't worry about what your agent's saying. If they're trying to bully you into doing, not bully, that's the wrong word, but
yeah,
I think there's some element of coaching that we need to do.
Right.
But we see a lot. Like, I have an actual list in my office of realtors that we do not want to do business with. Right. And that's for the sake of our clients, not just us. Right. But they're people that have lit the fuse. And again, like, that's important too, because that's the stuff that we keep track of. So yeah, I can post on Instagram, look how many houses I sold in April. It doesn't matter, right? Like, what really matters is how the agent you hire or the lender that you hire is going to work with you in what you need.
And advocate for you.
And advocate for you, right. And not do so in a pressured environment.
Yep. No, so, you're exactly right. I call that commission breath.
Commission breath, yeah.
You can smell it. It stinks.
It does stink, yeah.
And you can smell it a long ways away.
Right.
And you can tell every single time if it's an agent, if it's a lender. And there's desperation out there right now.
A lot.
Just like you said. And the worst part is one of those bad offers can come in and reset a whole market.
Yeah.
And then we're in a bad, deeper hole for the next people that are listing their homes.
Correct.
And it's just it's a cycle.
Right.
And now there's some offers, some houses that you're going to have do that. But if you have an agent that is in the know and knows what they're doing, they'll know what houses you have to make those decisions on.
Correct.
And then they'll let you make the decision.
Right.
Right? And so I think that is so big. And more now, more than ever, is the agent you work with matters so much, because if they are connected and known as a good agent in this market, you have at least a chance they can get you the know of what the house and the offer you need to put in front of them to get is.
Right.
You know, where if you have a agent that doesn't know what they're doing or isn't respected well in the community, they're not going to know. And they're just going to tell you to do something that is not beneficial for you as the buyer or for even themselves or anyone else in this market.
Right.
So I will 100% back that. I found a statistic on here. I can't say that word once again. Statistic. There we go. That mortgage applications are down 28% year over year. And mortgage locks, meaning people that bought a home last month, in the month of April, are nationwide, and this is by Black Knight, a locking company that does pricing for 90% of the mortgage professionals out there, fell 22% in the month of April.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So what's that mean? The market's down. Inventory is way low. That's just preaching what every single person knows, but that's putting some stats behind it.
Right.
As it's rough out there, and eventually agents and lenders will have to get out of the market because they're trying to make a living just like everyone. But the good ones, like Jared, the Andy Blake group, the ones that you want to work with, will do what's best for you and will help you find those right homes. Yeah. And I think that is so important now when you're looking to find with someone that you're comfortable with. Ask them what their reputation is. Ask their team. Ask around. Ask other agents if you know them, because it's going to be worthwhile. And the ones that are good are going to succeed. And they're struggling too, but they're going to succeed and do what's best for their client.
Right.
And I think that your point is so huge, and that's why who you work with matters now more than ever before.
Yeah. I mean, and because the market's so crazy, obviously anybody could stick a sign in the yard and sell the house.
Yep.
But that's the easy part. The easy part is negotiating the right terms, trying to get the seller in a position that's best for them. It's not just about getting the highest offer.
Right.
I mean, because we're having to go through, and we go through with a fine-tooth comb on all of our offers, which is who's making the offer, is it clean, not just, we're talking literally clean. Like if an agent sends me a contract that's misspelled or wrong, or they didn't sign what they needed to sign, or anything of that nature, sometimes that makes a difference.
Yeah.
So if I'm a listing agent and I have multiple offers, and you have some that are really close, my clients are like, well, what are you going to go with? I'm going to say, gosh, Susie from, EXP, whatever, her offer is $2,000 above what your other offer is, but she was so hard to communicate with. She's so hard to yada yada. I mean, like, her contract was super messy. I'm really worried about her ability to get this to the finish line. That plays a role, and sellers listen to that. And it's not because I don't want them to net more money.
Right.
The more money they make, the more money we make. I mean, but that's not the goal. The goal is to get them to the finish line as smooth as possible. Yep. And sometimes the agent on the other end of that could really screw it up. Yeah. So we look at that stuff very, very hard.
Right. So if you were thinking about buying a home, what would your first steps be? Get with the lender and do your diligence, or what would you say? I
mean, I always think that a realtor is a very good first step.
Yep. And
the reason of that is because we do have to live harmoniously with lenders.
Yep.
And so when I recommend lenders to my people, there's a reason why.
Right.
Right? There's no kickbacks, there's no money made, there's nothing of that nature. It's this person has a great personality, this person's going to get you to the finish line, and they're going to fight like dogs to get you there. Yep. And I had an argument. I wouldn't call it an argument. It was more of a nasty voicemail because one of my clients decided they wanted to go with Rocket Mortgage, which I don't care. Like, they need to do whatever was best for them financially.
Right.
Like, that's obviously very clear. However, when I call the agent, it's a 1-800 number, right? I have to go through all these prompts. They never answer, and they're like, our business hours are from 9 to 5 Eastern time. And I'm like, I call this guy. I'm like, you can't. That's not good enough.
Right.
Like, you make or break the deal.
Right.
And I'm not excited to work with you. And it's because it's not what's best for my client.
There's that honesty coming out.
Right, yeah. Like, yes, I want my client to save money, but there is, to my other point too, about that $2,000 difference of that scenario of the listing.
Right.
Is $2,000 worth 2 months of headaches because this other agent doesn't do what they're supposed to be doing? Not for me to decide, but I do present that to my sellers. I do to my sellers and my buyers on the lending side. I always say, okay, I know that this rate is a little bit higher, but gosh, I know for a fact this person's going to answer their phone when I call them Sunday night at 6 when we need something desperately that's going to potentially delay closing.
Right.
Or I get to call Rocket Mortgage and they're like, we will return your phone call within 48 hours.
Yep.
It's like, oh, cool, awesome.
That's how it is.
So
We can
anyway,
ramble about this all
we
day.
could. I know that went way too far.
But
For
we're
sure.
going to have more podcasts that we're going to dive into this.
Yeah.
And what the steps of buying a home is, and what different items you can take to get yourself ready, and what this forecast and what this market's going to be like. Because if you follow us month over month, you're going to see the changes before they even happen and get in the news.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm excited about for this. Did you see any stupid headlines this month?
I did.
I want to hear.
Yeah, and I think this is where things get really hard for people because you want to believe the news, right? You want to believe experts and whatnot. But there's an article, GBR. I don't even know what it stands for. But it was posted May 4th, and it was what the housing market's going to look like by the end of spring 2023, according to experts. And on here, there's one that really struck me, and it was this guy's opinion is it will still be a buyer's market. If you're Adam and Eve looking for a house, first time home buyer, and you read that headline, you're going to be in big trouble.
Yep.
It's not a buyer's market here.
Nope.
It hasn't been for a long time. But this is the problem with these news outlets that have this information, and I think that one is
That's funny.
very dangerous.
I see that all the time.
Right.
Of people thinking, oh, I heard that since rates are coming up, that we have a better chance and less buyers that we can turn around and just offer right at list price. We can offer for seller paid closing costs.
Right.
That hasn't been a thing since the beginning of the year. And that was we had a 1 or 2 month lull where maybe you could get a little bit of that.
Yeah.
It was an awesome time to buy a home.
Yeah.
About 1 month of it.
Yeah.
And then after that, it was right back to bananas.
Right.
That's a funny one.
And I don't know where this guy's from. I mean, maybe that's relevant for New
I don't
York
think
or
that's for
something.
anywhere.
But it's funny because it even says the market shifted last year and buyers are now in the driver's seat and are negotiating price reductions. And that cannot be further from the truth. I mean, the fact that this was dated just 2 days ago makes me really nervous because it's absolutely the opposite here.
Right.
I mean, everything's multiple offers. Everything's being waived. Parents are helping with cash. People are taking stuff out of their 401ks. I mean, it's dog eat dog out there.
Right.
Which, again, the whole point of this is to be candid and sensible. It's tough if you're a buyer.
Right.
It is. It will be for
super tough.
a long time. But it's still advantageous to get into a home.
Right.
If you're moving up, if you want to change school districts, or you're having another kid, you're probably thinking twice about selling your first home.
Yep.
And that's just the way that it is. And I get it. You're going to have a similar mortgage payment for a smaller house because of interest rates, potentially.
Yep.
So this new home buyer market is going to be the one that's going to have to we're going to have to really love on.
Right.
It's going to be very tough for them, but it's still, they're the ones that are buying houses right now.
Right.
So.
And it's going to be this way for a while.
Yes.
We're so far down in inventory that if you ever think about selling your home, you'll get more money now than you ever thought about it.
Yeah.
Right? And that's not my plea or to try to get you to sell your home, but dang it, you're going to make some money.
Yeah.
And it's the truth.
Yep.
So listen more to our podcast coming up because we're going to have live, up-to-date data that is coming at you from the Kansas City area, and that will help you so much when it comes time to buy a home.
Yeah. We stay on top of it so that, you can be
You don't have
educated
to.
as much as possible. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, man, what'd you think of the whiskey?
Okay. So the whiskey, I drink my whiskey on the rocks.
Mm-hmm.
One big rock. But
Big
I will
rock.
say this has it lives up to its smoky flavor.
Oh my
for
gosh,
sure,
I feel like I'm smoking a cigar.
which is good. But if you let that ice melt a little bit,
It's good.
It balances out really well. So,
I've drank a little bit more than you.
what do you think?
Yeah, same thing.
Would you buy it for yourself?
I think that one may be more of a mixture for me. If you have like a smoky old fashioned,
Oh, that's
that
a good
could be
idea.
really good.
Yeah,
But I thought it was good. Like you said, I had to get it watered down a little bit.
yeah.
I'm a little softer than you.
No, it's got a big bite right off.
Big bite.
Right off the lip there. So.
We love the bite.
All right.
Well, thank you guys for joining us on this very first one. We will be coming out to you monthly.
Yep.
So be on the lookout. We're going to have some more updates coming up and some more information to throw your guys' way. If there's anything that you want to hear or have questions about, reach out.
Yep.
We're happy to share it on this so you guys can hear it. So
For sure. Yeah, thanks, everybody.
Thank you for joining us on this first one.
We'll see you next time.